VRX Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Deeper into the season, it's starting to become clear what drivers are standing out for the top prize here in the 2025 VRX World Cup. But as we go to the stronghold in the middle of the country, Kansas Speedway, a racetrack 1.5 miles, and live here tonight on V-Speed, only 3 races left to find out our champion. Brian Hennings with the lead. It's 2025 in the Esports World Cup Series presented by VRX. Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper, alongside Connor Horn, with camera packs provided by Dougie Beard. Connor, this racetrack practiced in the daytime, qualified in the evening. The lights are on. It's going to be nighttime by the time we're done with it.
And it's going to be pretty crazy by the time we're done. It's one of the few tracks I've driven in an ARCA car, and it's a very tight racetrack. The car is really tight, doesn't really want to get into a corner, so it's probably going to take contact to get kicked sideways. The bottom side can work, especially on new tires where there's not as much off-throttle time. You really might not even see drivers lift out of the throttle 100% at all. You might see that later in the run, but not at the beginning of the run. But as the night settles in, the track gets cooler. It was 94 in qualifying, 79 during the race, so we'll see how much cooler it might get. It's already down to 78, and the temperatures, the ambient temps, as low as it can go as the lights continue to come on and the night continues to settle in. Like I said, we might see that bottom line come in 70 degrees of banking in the turns, but that is progressive, so it's not all 17 degrees. We might see the bottom line be good early, but that high side is going to be tough to beat tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be fast up there. Wall riding, it was similar to Darlington, where you were up near the wall, especially in earlier builds, a couple years ago. And I can remember dominating races up on that outside line, but it can make you pay the price on tires. If you run into that outside line for too long, it can wear out that right front. And speaking of tires, and speaking of strategy, we have our in-race pit reporter, Stephen Brown. He's going to give us the 411 on how long these drivers could go and what the strategy is here for tonight.
Well, Bradley, things down here on pit road have been just nothing but electric. I have talked to a few of these drivers, including our points leader, Brian, and he's saying that he's trying to do this on a one-stop race. which is very interesting because tire wear here at Kansas has been not too well on these Goodyear tires from the last that I have seen and have that I've actually raced on. But a lot of these drivers are actually trying to do a one-stop race. But if cautions come into a factor, then they are going to be trying to go for tires every single stop that they can.
Yeah, we talked to a few of these drivers, and it seems like that's the norm with unlimited tire sets here tonight. We'll take that up on the screen. 70 laps here this evening. Pit road speed limit at 45 miles per hour. Unlimited tire sets, as mentioned. 65% fuel, and that's the asterisk right there. Is maybe you come in and top off with fuel for the first caution or two, but really the strategy dictates that you want to come in and get tires if you go on to a decent run. I'm talking 15, 20 laps. That makes sense here. And it could flip-flop the strategy. We've seen that a lot, Connor, where races were dictated by drivers that decided to come down pit road early, and then the race went green.
Yeah, we kind of saw similar things kind of happen in Indianapolis, where you had drivers pit early, get the track position, try to stay up there. And we saw that work for track position, but not for the victory. The tires ended up making the difference. And even though I'm not expecting that much fall off, especially with how cool the temps are, I still think track position is going to dominate this race. And when you got the fastest drivers at the front, you're probably going to have to grip some track position away on pit road. If you're a guy starting in the middle of the pack like John Hudson, Wade Palmer, Benjamin Richards, Jeffrey Hunter, who finished third last week for Jeffrey Hunter, he was the one who really played the track position game and stayed up front with it. So if you're gonna want to get through either Brian Hennings or Renee Hasp or anyone who's running at the front, you're probably going to have to play track position, take 2 tires somewhere, or just stay out on one cycle. Remember, you have unlimited sets of tires, but the fuel is limited, so you're going to have to be careful of that.
Brian Hennig's going to start on the pole with a 29.973. Dan Charles starting to the outside, top spot to your points leader. Kelly Walton and Christian Key. Can Christian Key keep that luck turning around? He'll start in the top 5, 5th position with Philip Willis, 31 points back. Julian Conde will start in the 6th spot. 7th going to Chase Rockford with Frank Chavez in 8th. And rounding out the top 10, Greg Spiker and John Hudson.
Wade Palmer, 43 car, a lot of controversy early in the season. 12th in points for him, he'll start 11th. Ken Couch, 12th. Doug Helfer, the 13th position. Dane Chivers, who was caught up in a lot of incidents last week, starts 14th. Benjamin Richards, 15th. Jeffrey Hunter, great top 3 finish. And a Grateful Dead car, my mom would love that car. He starts 16th. Teresa Spiker will start 17th. Mike Howerton, who's been fast all season, but he hasn't gotten results in certain races. He started way back in 18th. Renee Hasp, 19th. And Jason Lyon, who's also had a lot of bad luck, starting 20th.
21st to Ed Fiedler, and we have Mike Shivers in 22nd, 23rd. Going to go back here to David Collins. You also have Connor Gordon there on the marker in the top of the tower. Kenneth Blackburn, Jared Conley not on the racetrack. Here we go for week number 10, Kansas Speedway VRX 2025 World Cup. And he's going to lead lap number 1. Look at the Hornet's Nest behind him, though, from 5th position. Christian Key in the middle of all of it.
You're already seeing how little off-throttle time there is. Hennings is only breathing it just a little bit to get the nose pointed. That's what everyone else is doing, but they're having to do that even more because of that dirty air. You can see Hennings getting to the bottom quickly, shutting the door from Kelly Walton, who had a great qualifying effort, is now in that 2nd position, but he hit the apron. That gave Kelly Walton a little bit of a run, but you can see everyone trying to search for clean air, trying to search for clean track.
The 10 car to the outside, Greg Spiker trying to gain the 8th position on the outside of Wade Palmer. Palmer's going to run up the racetrack off the exit, cuts the nose off of the 10. Had just enough room to do it that time around for that move, but you got to be careful. This track notorious for pushing up on the exits, and the big run on the outside, it might look like the 10 car is going to stay behind you, but when you get to that exit, suddenly he's in your rearview mirror knocking on the back porch.
And once we get these tires, we're in 15, 20 laps. I mean, you're seeing right now pretty much everyone at the front fighting for the white line, trying to get to the bottom of the racetrack as Dan Charles almost hit the wall up ahead. Once everyone's tires kind of get worn out, you'll see more drivers try to search around the outside wall. You have two seams, pretty visible seams around the racetrack. You get your left sides on that seam on the top part of the racetrack around both sets of corners here. That's when you'll start making time up once your tires are out, but you got to save those tires to be able to use them up there. But right now, everyone trying to get to the bottom, especially Kelly Walton, trying to find clean air, as I think Renee Hasp hit the wall in the background but kept it straight. But Kelly Walton keeps trying to get clean air to the left front fender of that nose, but the 74 Henning's doing a good job just shutting all the air off as best he can.
They were watching there side by side with Dan Charles. He actually pinched in the last time by through 3 and 4 down on Philip Willis. Willis had to lift out of the throttle. And that was the push-up I was talking about when you're running that bottom. 33 had no choice but to lift a little early. Benjamin Richards on the move. Contact with the 15 just behind him on Jeffrey Hunter, the 08 of King Couch.
And that could have been disaster right there. Remember, we saw a lot of yellows at Indy, so we'll see if everyone can kind of mind their P's and Q's this week. It wasn't big contact, but just enough to send Jeffrey Hunter up the racetrack cautiously. You're starting to see things, at least in the top 13 or so, kind of get single file spread out. Or I should say top 11. Everyone else still kind of fighting in the back half of the field pretty closely.
It's Jason Lyon in the 12 car. Inside line for the 12, trying to get around the 15 of Hunter, who has moved up the racetrack. Offset, still a Hornet's Nest. From 16th on back, Mike Shivers in the 5 car, up 2 spots, up to 20th. And you mentioned Mike Howerton. Had a little hiatus there. Was on a penalty. Back this week. The 51 car has shown speed all this season, but deep in this field, down 3 positions, back in 21st.
And it's hard to make passes no matter what the league is from the back. You have the most dirty air possible. You have pretty much everyone in front of you using every single lane, so you're not going to get that much clean air unless you go to the way top side, which even that's going to be used up at some point. All you can really do is try to save your tires the best possible. Hope it goes green to the point where you can get to a point where your tires are better than everyone's, start making passes, get a long run, get the pit stops, as there's contact between Greg Spiker and Wade Palmer. But all Howerton can do is wait for the pit stops after having a good long run and then maybe get a caution, because no way he'd compete for a top 5 if this goes green from here.
And we'll call upon our in-race pit reporter, Stephen Brown, again. As it sits right now, 9 laps in out of 70. What would be your call right now? You're committed to this one-stop race. You mentioned a lot of drivers are looking to make it one stop. But if a caution fell right now, what would be your call? And Stephen Brown has his mic muted right now. Probably trying to find some information. There he is.
So, going through part of the field, most of the drivers have been stating that the cars have been feeling pretty normal for the most part, other than a little bit of tightness, especially going through out of turns 3 and 4 coming onto the front stretch. But other than that, these drivers are actually having a lot of fun with these cars. They have been really, really fast from what I have been seeing.
We've been continuing to see battles kind of repeat themselves. You got the 10 and the 43 who went back and forth for this 7th position. Greg Spiker has not been able to clear the 43 of Wade Palmer.
No, they're really getting held up by Dan Charles, who's really started fading off. We've seen this a few times from Dan Charles this season, where he's good short run, falls off on the long run, and really struggles to keep the right front tire on it right now. As you're seeing him push up the racetrack center exit, almost put the 10 car in the wall. Now he's in the middle 3 wide, but you can see he just cannot get the car turned after entering. He just completely pushes up the track, and he's all over the place right now. He's hoping for a yellow himself.
And it looks like a little pinch down there. Some door touch from the 10. Frank Chavez to the inside for the 6th position. That was some heavy contact there between the 10 and the 23. And I think that's kind of how you have to run this corner. Guy gets a good entry to the corner. You got to make sure he doesn't get the run off.
It's kind of easier said than done. Very wide racetrack, but it gets very thin on the exit of these corners. You have the safer barriers kind of jutting out of 4, out of 2. So you got to really be careful to make sure you leave just enough room to exit at least 2 wide, maybe 3 wide, possibly 4 wide. As you can see, side by side, a track like this, how momentum based it is going to get those drivers who are single file not battling pretty far away from the battle. Those top 4 have pretty much pulled away, as though Brian Hennings is the lead. He's actually kind of pulling away from Kelly Walton. And here goes Philip Willis for second.
Philip Willis dives to the inside, and Kelly Walton tags the apron a little bit there. I don't think he's going to finish this run. That's going to allow Christian Key maybe to get a run off the outside. He's going to follow the 33 to the bottom.
Had a pretty good run. Andy's got a push from Christian Key just a little bit, but he doesn't have the cleanest of air. But the further away that 74 gets, the cleaner the air gets. Remember last week, it was kind of Philip Willis kind of playing that game, keeping Brian Hennings behind him. The Hennings has a chance to do that this week instead to the 33, but he doesn't even have to. He's pulling away 3/10 a lap the more they're side by side, and they're 3 wide in the back for the 10th position. Chase Rockford, Ken Couch, Benjamin Richards all over each other.
Almost 3 wide across the tri-oval. All the way to the inside is Chase Rockford. 56 of Richards going to work his way to the top 10. Now clear, no. Into the wall, contact.
Look out. He saved it. There's going to be a lot of damage on that right front fender, I would think, for Ken Couch. He was doing a good job, but they got together. Just wasn't enough room.
And Richards moves up to 10th. Now contact with the 12 of Lyon. Ken Couch is struggling here, but I don't think you want to bounce off every single car that's passing you.
I think these guys got to be all careful. They're not probably too far away from green flag pit stops, but these drivers are not going to make it at this rate, bouncing off each other the way they are.
And you hold it down there. The 12 just trying to complete this pass. He's caught up to the 08 pretty quickly, but completing that pass is another feat all on its own. And it's held up a few of these cars behind. You have John Hudson, Dane Shivers, Chase Rockford, all getting grouped up from 11th on back as you watch Benjamin Richards pull away. He is caught up to Doug Helfer in the 64.
Everyone 12th on back, still all over the place, but Richards did a good job getting away from all that, but now he's at the second log jam with his 43 and 10 car. It's just still going side by side, just costing each other time at this point. They're still in the top 10, but just completely battling each other out of a potential top 5 running position right now. As you can see, these drivers not giving an inch.
Yeah, and you see the 10 just tag the apron there, moves up the racetrack, almost gets into the 43. And Benjamin Richards going to look to the inside of the 64. He's going to gain another position.
You know, Spiker missed the corner into turn 3. That might get Benjamin Richards another one. That's
2 for 1.
Spiker, he wanted to commit to the middle, but he just really never entered the corner. He just kind of went straight on entry. Let the 56 by and almost let the 64 by.
Philip Willis was able to get around the 818. Christian Key, the next one in line, working that inside of that car. And he will get clear down the backstretch. Key to third. Actually, it's Julian Conde who just cleared for the 4th position. So Kelly Walton down 2 spots, starting to hemorrhage a little bit of position here. And Frank Chavez up 2 on the move to the top 5.
And Walton was one of those drivers, really the first driver behind Brian Hennings, who was really pushing the car hard, trying to get clean air out from behind the 74. And you can see them paying the price right now.
So it's 2.2 seconds to the lead. Brian Hennings on an island all on his own. That's where the confusion was. I was looking at Philip Willis and Christian Key, and I confused Key with Conde because this guy right here, he's in his own zip code. 21 laps led, now 22 across the line. He is absolutely destroying this field and continuing to pull away.
And Philip Willis, he tried everything he could to get the second as quick as possible. I don't know how much tire he saved, but the gap is still over a tenth per lap right now with him in second position in front of Christian Key. Brian Hennings, just like you said, in his own zip code. Last time we went to a 1.5 mile racetrack, that was back at Charlotte, and Philip Willis was able to get the victory. And Hennings was close to him, but Hennings wasn't as dominant as he is right now.
Side by side for the top 5 continues. Frank Chavez. Kelly Walton going to hemorrhage another position. Here comes Benjamin Richards. Richards on the move. 9 spots gained. Biggest mover of the race so far. Tied with Jason Lyon, who had that little hiccup back there a moment ago with contact between him and I believe it was the 08.
Yeah, that was the 08. It's Kevin Couch. He's the first one to come down to pit on lap 21. Probably too early after he was probably just repairing damage. You're still seeing these drivers who wore their tires out really falling back. Kelly Walton's almost back to the 9th position. Wade Palmer, who's now not battling with Greg Spiker, battling with Doug Helfer instead, as Spiker's fallen off the pace with that 43 just a little bit. But Wade Palmer always in a battle. They're 3 wide for about the 16th position. Edward Fiedler, David Collins, those are 2 drivers we haven't talked about. They're battling near the back of the field right now. David Collins is furthest up in points without a top 5 this season. He's 9th in points, no top 5s.
Christian Key last time by was a touch faster than Philip Willis as we take an onboard here with the driver of the 97. Christian Key on the move. And I'm happy to see right now this race the way it's going for Christian Key. He's shown the pace. He's shown he can be in the top 5. But this, to me, is a solid run. He hasn't had to contend with traffic. He started up towards the front. And I think a lot of times starting outside that top 5 has been kind of the Achilles heel for the 97.
The one thing I'm just noting, just not from just Christian Key, but everyone else running, I thought we'd see that higher line really come into play. It just really hasn't happened. 26 laps in this time by. The fall off is over a second, roughly about 1 second for everyone, but that higher line just hasn't come into play as 97 entered the inside line very early, maybe too early that time, but that third lane that we usually see so dominant here, just not the case.
Richards flirting with the top 5 here. 6th position for the number 56. He'll go to the outside of the 23. Frank Chavez trying to figure out a way around him.
Oh, I think I just saw Kelly Walton pit right in front of Doug Helfer. That almost created chaos. Looks like Greg Spiker's going to come in as well. So this is around the lap 25-30 range. Kenneth Blackburn in as well. So this is really the first scheduled pit stops at all.
Let's see if we can go back and look at what happened just in front of Doug Helfer. .818 of Kelly Walton was the car, I think, that you mentioned.
It was. It looked like it was close. Like a very late pit move for Walton to hit the brakes. And right there, it starts slowing down.
I don't think he made it.
And Helfer had to check up pit entry. Or he had to check up his exit of the corner big time. And somehow I think they got away with it. I did not see a penalty for Kelly Walton. But it looks like they're coming back.
Yeah, Walton never made it down pit road. He actually missed the entry because of that situation.
Benjamin Richards, next driver to come to pit. So everyone's, oh, we got another sliding. That's Jason Lyons sliding on the pit road. And I don't know if he made pit speed himself, but we're seeing all these drivers pit before halfway, which is pretty concerning to the point where I don't know if all these drivers are going to be able to make it too easily, but we're still seeing the race leader able to go all this way, at least to lap 30, but it looks like he's going to pit right now, so definitely a 2-stop race. And this is kind of what we saw at Las Vegas, where we saw a lot of drivers not able to make a 1-stop work, but instead of maybe short fueling for their second stop or taking 2 tires, they ended up just taking 4 tires again. A lot of them did and cost themselves a lot of time, so we'll see if we see some 2-tire calls this time around. As Philip Willis entered the pits pretty slowly, actually lost a spot to Christian Key on pit entry, and almost everyone else came down behind him. Fiedler's in, the 3's in, and I believe Dane Chivers is in as well.
Brand Race pit reporter Stephen Brown down on pit road watching these leaders hit the pit.
So from what I'm seeing, most of these drivers are actually not going to be taking 2 tires at all for this entire race there, Bradley. Most of the strategy today is just going to be considering fuel. Most of these drivers are actually just going to be taking just 4 tires for this entire race, from what I have been hearing, especially from Brian Hennings, who said he's only going to be taking tires every single time he's on pit road, and it's going to be 4 tires.
Limited tire sets can make that happen. Julian Conde to the lead. He'll bring it down pit road. Very shallow entry. Very conservative here for the 18.
They're pretty conservative. It looked like Frank Chavez might have had issues entering the pits as well. I've seen at least 2 other drivers have issues entering the pits. And Frank Chavez, I think someone got upset, and not upset, but I think someone booted the 23. I think it might have been Mike Chivers, but either way, they're on pit road all cleanly. Almost everyone's came down the pit so far. Still waiting on a few drivers like Mike Chivers, like Chase Rockford, who's on the apron. It just seems like everyone's trying to stretch the fuel as far as possible to the point where these drivers are on the apron into the corners.
Rockford, very shallow entry to pit. Started the entry all the way back in turn 3. Lost a ton of ground.
And that might have been a case of them maybe being low on fuel. Seems like they're maybe sputtering, but I haven't really heard anything. But this should cycle out. Rockford Shivers. Hennings is going to have about a 2-second lead over Christian Key, who we saw get to that second position, just passing Philip Willis on pit entry straight up. So that's really the main change we saw.
And there he is, the leader, Brian Hennings. He's led all, about 5 laps here so far. 29 laps led now for Brian Hennings. Back to the top spot, 2.1 seconds ahead of Christian Key. We're just past that halfway mark this time by. We're going to take a quick commercial break here. Side by side under green. Non-stop action here on V-Speed. Back with more of the 2025 VRX World Cup in just a moment.
JX Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome back here to our coverage. Green flag staying out. Clean of green all the way through to lap 43 as we watch a battle for the top 5 between Jason Lyon, Benjamin Richards. All of these drivers have come down pit road one time. It's about an average of 12 laps on this stint. And we're predicting about lap 50 for these drivers to come back down pit road and split this race into thirds. Connor Horn, Bradley Cooper in the V-Speed booth, our in-race pit reporter Stephen Brown, and our camera packs provided by Dougie Beard. Connor, so far, clean and green, but it's been dominant by this driver right here.
Yeah, not much else you can say. I mean, one yellow wipes it all away, but even if he's not going to restart in the lead for whatever reason, it's going to be hard to beat him. I mean, he's been completely dominant. He was fast on the short run, and he was able to extend that gap over 2 seconds on the long run. And he's really had no challenge. His closest challenge was on the first few laps from Kelly Walton. He's done a good job. Philip Willis, not as fast as we thought he might be at 1.5 miles like this after how good he did at Charlotte the last time we were at 1.5 miles. Christian Key, great run for him. Second place so far. And those pit stops, what it did, getting green flag pit stops, is just really spread out the field. Wade Palmer's 4th, and he is very far back, 8.5 seconds to Brian Hennings from him. Benjamin Richards, he's done a great job. He's climbed from 15th to 5th. Jason Lyon might have the best charge yet, though. He started 20th. He's all the way up to the 6th position through some strategy. Everyone's still got to pit. Everyone's still got to get on and off of pit road cleanly at least one more time. But there's been some good charges for some drivers and some unfortunate falls for some drivers, like Kelly Walton back in 15th after starting in the 3rd position.
So looking through this field, Mike Howerton on the move, 10 positions gained for the 51. Area 51 on the inside, trying to get around Doug Helfer for the 7th spot. Got a decent run there, but pushed up the racetrack, had to lift out of the throttle. Looks like still an opportunity maybe here into turn 1. Nothing to it just yet. Close battle on the racetrack. Chase Rockford. Looks like he's coming back down pit road to start the cycle of round 2.
Rockford, I don't believe pit too early in the cycle. Pit around lap 33, so really actually one of the later drivers to pit. So this is a kind of strategy. It's all over the place. Not sure it'll work out.
Could gain some positions out of this, but it's going to end up losing a lap. If a caution came out, Rockford would be buried in this field. Frank Chavez, Kelly Walton. And again, Kelly Walton started up towards the front here today. Started in the 3rd position, but has hemorrhaged a ton of positions since then. Fell out of the top 5 after a few laps, but once out of the top 5, it was one after another every lap.
And the only person having a worse night right now is Dan Charles, who started in the 2nd position and has fallen back all the way even further back to the 20th position. Actually going to fall back another one to 21st to John Hudson. So both drivers starting in the top 3. With 3 drivers who started in the top 3, one's dominated the race, the other 2 have faded. 2.8
seconds for your lead. Philip Willis on pace to catch up to Christian Key. This last time by, about 1/10 faster. The time before, 2/10 faster. So Philip Willis, a little advantage here in the long run as we watch pit stops with Ken Couch on the left-hand side.
Ken Couch, I believe, was a driver who did come down pretty early, about lap 20, actually, lap 21. So this is more on schedule with what I would think you would do on a 2-stop. I still don't know why no one would at least try fuel only or at least 2 tires, but it is what it is. And Ken Couch is more on strategy for a 2-stop than mostly everyone else who will just take 4 tires with 10 laps to go or something.
And there's a 51 looking to the outside of Jason Lyon. High line here into turn 1. Lyon going to take the low side. But to the nose here for the 51 of Howerton. Will get the advantage down the backstretch. And will clear for the 6th position. It's about 1.5 seconds in the top 5. Benjamin Richards on an island. Wade Palmer, Philip Willis, Christian Key, and then your leader, Brian Hennings. No other takers down pit road. And we were talking about this with our in-race pit reporter, Stephen Brown. We thought maybe around 20 laps to go. But we're continuing to see these drivers, Stephen, run this out longer and longer. Do you like this strategy of pushing this as far as it can go?
In terms of how the traffic stops have been going, I actually do like this idea because then it will give some of these drivers something to think about. Who's going to stop first? Who's going to not be able to make it before I can? They're trying to time this out to possibly even get a caution where everyone can come down on pit road. But as it's looking like, these guys are just wanting to go for the finish.
To stretch it as long as they can. Henning's still out of the racetrack. The entirety of your top 5 has now been on the racetrack 23 laps. You go back to Mike Howerton and a few of these drivers that stayed out a little bit longer. They have the tire advantage, but that's going to fade away. And if they don't come down here pretty soon, I think any advantage they had is going to be null and void. They're going to lose ground. So I don't see anybody making it to the end of this race. I think that's physically impossible. Brian Hennings is setting the tempo for who's going to come down in this top 5. I think if he pits, everyone else will follow the next lap. But if the cars behind him pit, Brian Hennings could probably go a lap further.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably see these guys go as long as they can just to not get bit and get put a lap down by yellow at any point. I just think if you were going to know you were going to 2-stop since the very beginning, you probably would have hit around lap 20 to 25, which really no one did. So at this point, everyone's just stretching their fuel as long as possible, just trying to take tires and maybe the least amount of fuel possible to be on pit road the smallest amount of time. We'll just have to see how it shakes out.
Here comes Benjamin Richards.
Everyone just kind of trickling on pit road to get 2 there, 3 there, but no one's coming down on one single lap. John Hudson came down the previous lap as there's a spin on pit entry. Edward Fiedler spun on pit entry. That will not be a yellow, but that will hurt him a lot. And here comes Hennings.
There's the spin here by Fiedler.
Yeah, just coming a little too fast, jams on the brakes, too much rear brake as well, and just spins it out. And while that was happening, while we were replaying it, every one of the top 3, not all the top 3 came down. Christian Key second came in, the 74 of Hennings came in, 33, stayed out at least one more lap.
Willis going to go one lap longer. Trying to get an advantage on tires, but I think he's too far behind Christian Key and Brian Hennings to have any chance of picking up another spot here unless they make a mistake on pit road.
2 tires for Christian Key. I thought someone might try it. He took 2 tires, got out in front of Hennings. We'll see how that plays out.
9.7 in the box. He is ahead of the 74. How long does it last?
He's already losing a lot on pit exit just from having no left side tires. Hennings has a run on him on pit exit. He's going to have to try hard to try to keep him behind him, but he might not even have a chance.
This car is going to be bad loose for a couple laps.
If he can ride it out to the point where he could keep track position, he'd be in a good spot, but he just couldn't get off of the apron with any speed, and Hennings already has positioning on him.
This might come back to haunt him, too, because Philip Willis was within a couple seconds of him for the 97. This could end up hurting him.
Yeah, just all in the pit exit. I think if he had a better pit exit and could have gotten up to speed in front of Hennings, he could have had a chance, at least a few laps to try to hold him off, but he just could not get off the apron well at all. Hennings got to his outside. It was pretty much over from there.
The net race lead coming up here. Philip Willis right now has the top position. He'll get some laps led. But I know for Willis, this is going to be frustrating because the one driver that you need to pass in points, your 31 out coming into tonight, has led the most laps and is most likely, if we stay green, going to win this race. He has not been able to shave any points away ever since that early retirement at Bristol.
We'll see what he's able to do if he takes no tires or 2 tires. I like the call from Key to do it. He was close enough to do that and take fuel. I just don't think the 33 is going to be really close enough to do anything about the lead that the 74 had, but we'll have to see. See if he changes his mind, wants to do something different.
97 going to go by, follow suit around Doug Helfer to get his lap back. So these cars would not be pinned a lap down. Doug Helfer still on the racetrack with Mike Howerton. Julian Conde in the 3rd spot, just behind this battle for first. And 9 laps to go here from Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, 38 did take 4 tires, which honestly, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to have a chance to get the Christian Key because of that. You can see it's a full back straightaway back to Christian, from Christian Key back to Philip Willis, and it even let Benjamin Richards get in between the both of them. We still have a lot of drivers to pit, hoping for that yellow, maybe to flip the field, flip the script for them, really. Helfer, Howardson, Julian Conde, David Collins, Chivers in the 5 car. So a lot of drivers trying to stick it out, hope to get a yellow, as Teresa Spiker, not going to get that yellow, has to come down the pit.
So the 25 on the second stop with under 10 to go. Spiker started in 17th, running in 6th as they hit the pit. They're going to fall out of this top 10 after pit stops are done. And I think for some of these drivers, it's a matter of they need a caution to get back into this thing. Mike Howardson going to stretch it out even further. But right on the edge now of that fuel mark. Where they pitted, where they started to sputter, was probably within the next 2 laps, you're going to see guys have to come down.
I mean, he tried to go along the previous run. He got the lap 32, but he's calling himself in this time, so he's not going to be able to make it. Obviously, we don't think anyone's going to be able to. Conde is in second. He's going to come in.
Howardsson's losing it.
Well, he's not going to make it. That's going to end pretty much his race. Look out for the 18. He's going to get a penalty for unsafe entry, you would think, no doubt. But that was a little bit too deep, trying to get a little bit too much.
Howardson most likely going to get a hold penalty here in the 51 after service. Going to try to take a fuel-only stop to salvage this day. No tires going on this machine, but still held on to the pit box. Mike Shivers probably going to have to come down this time by.
Looks like it. They're on the apron. Look out, Jeffrey Hunter. I'm not sure if Jeffrey Hunter knew they're pitting. They did call it in chat, but probably wasn't looking at chat. And that is going to cycle things out. Back to the dominant 74, Brian Hennings. He hasn't pulled away from Christian Key all the way, but the tire advantage will probably make it easy to defend this 97, I would think. 5 to go.
There's our 9th lead change of the night with 0 cautions, 5 laps left here from Kansas in week number 10. Brian Hennings with the points lead coming into tonight has the race lead in dominant fashion. Christian Key brushes the wall. He's within half a second. Does the 97 have anything for Brian Hennings in these closing laps?
I don't think he's got anything. He's just trying to hold on, which should be pretty easy. He's going to have no pressure for that second place running position, and I think in retrospect, I think that was a good call. I really didn't put him at risk from Philip Willis passing him at all. Willis would have had to take 2 tires and then chase him down after we saw that 33 wait a little bit too long to even take tires, let alone take 4. I mean, it is still a full straight. It's more than a straightaway back to the 33 from the 97. So I think the 2-tire call put second place, made it pretty easy for the 97. It is 9 seconds almost.
Benjamin Richards is within a second, but starting to lose a little bit of ground. Richards has about 5 lap older tires compared to Philip Willis, so it's going to be a tall order to make up that ground in these closing laps. You got a battle back here for 12 as Julian Conde will go around Frank Chavez for that position. So still down, I think, a problem here maybe on pit road execution for Julian Conde. Bled a ton of ground, was up in the top 10 earlier in this race. Is now back to 12th, trying to make up that ground. 13 car into the wall, right across the nose in front. Dane Shivers almost loses it.
Yeah, I think both times, both pit stops, the strategy for Conde just wasn't good. Was in that top 5 before the first set of stops. Tried to stretch it long, probably lost too much time doing that. Then he stretched it long again, which has put him back in this position. Could have been a top 5, just try to get a little too cute with the strategy. And Brian Hennings, he hasn't needed strategy. He's only got a 7/10 of a second lead, but that does not tell the story.
1 lap to go, presented by Moza Racing. And it's the final time around. 1.5 miles left for Brian Hennings to find his way to victory lane again here. We talked about it quite a few times at the beginning of this show, with the points being 31 back to Philip Willis with 5 victories, and Brian Hennings off of turns 3 and 4. The 3rd time this season, Brian Hennings is going to victory lane in the VRX World Cup.
couldn't be any more dominant. I mean, his biggest challenge was pit exit. That was the only time he had to make it past for position, was on pit exit on Christian Key.
57 laps led. That puts him over 2/3 of this race. The 74 on a clinic, on a tear, continues that top 10 streak. And there's Hennings burning it down on the front stretch.
Almost getting T-boned by Chase Rockford.
Post-race interviews with your top three, those final race results, and a little bit of race recap in week number 10. Clean and green all the way through. More coverage continues on V-Speed right after this.
JS Racing. We're in the game.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
Welcome back here to our post-race coverage of VRX 2025, now into 2026 in the World Cup. Week number 10 has concluded of its 70 laps here at Kansas Speedway, and Brian Hennings finding his way to victory lane for the third time this season. It's a chase in the points, and Brian Hennings has an opportunity to lock it up next week. But before we talk about all of that, a race recap and our final race results. 0 cautions, 9 lead changes. Brian Hennings coming out on top. You can see those final race results. Christian Key finally gets the finish that he deserves, puts it up in the top 3. Podium finish for the 97. We knew he had it in him all season long, Connor. Philip Willis, more of the same, trailing Brian Hennings in the top 3. Benjamin Richards going to bring it home in the 4th position. Impressive race for him. Imagine if he had qualified a little bit further ahead. He's going to gain 11 spots, starting all the way back in 15th. Wade Palmer going to finish in the 5th spot. Doug Helfer's going to finish in 6th. Jason Lyon gaining the most positions here tonight with 13 positions gained. Then you go back to Jeffrey Hunter in 9th. Julian Conde rounding out your top 10.
And that top 10, what I noticed, only 4 drivers who started in the top 10 actually finished in the top 10, and 3 of them had finished in the top 5. So a lot of drivers came from the back, and a lot of drivers faded. Greg Spiker, Frank Chavez, and Kelly Walton all in a row there started top 10, couldn't finish top 10. 11th, 12th, 13th for them. Dane Shivers 14th, David Collins 15th, Edward Fiedler, we saw that pit road spin, still got 16th place out of it. Kenneth Blackburn 17th. John Hudson, thought we'd see more from him. He ends up 18th. Dan Charles started 2nd, faded hard, finishes 19th. Renee Haas, last driver on the lead lap, and photo finish with the 74 at the line, stayed on the lead lap, only ended up 20th out of the day.
21st going to go back to Mike Shivers in the number 5. Teresa Spiker with a late race pit stop, going to finish 22nd. Chase Rockford, mistakes on pit road, lost a lot of ground, back to 23rd. Mike Howerton also a mistake there on entering his pit stop, and unfortunately finishes in 24th. You have a race control there with Connor Gordon and Jaron Conley in the 22, electing not to grid on this field. So now it's time to go trackside and get down to victory lane. The first driver we're going to talk to is the race winner, 3rd time this season since Bristol. Brian Hennings starting to pull that lead away. It was 31 coming into tonight. I think it's going to be somewhere around 35, 36 points after this week. You could almost lock this championship up at Homestead. I know that's not the finale, but it will seem like it if you can get it done next week.
That's what we're hoping. It's actually 37. I just uploaded the results, so it's 37 points. Yeah, we'll see how it goes at Homestead. It'd be nice to lock it up there, but I really want to win Daytona. Be nice to finish it winning that Daytona.
Well, and as you go through this entirety of this season, most leagues have Daytona at the start of the season and they finish with Homestead. You guys are kind of doing a flip flop, and
Yep.
I know that Daytona anything can happen there. But if you could lock it up at Homestead, wouldn't that make you feel a little bit better?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be fun to win one of these things for once. It'll be 4th try if we count the truck series that we did there. Yeah, it'd be phenomenal to win one of these things. It'd be great. If I can do it, at Homestead, I will. I mean, I'm obviously going to practice a little bit harder this week. Try to find a good line and see how it plays out.
Well, speaking of practice, it looked like you put your time in this week. You started up on the pole. You go into turn 1. You have a little bit of contest into the corner, and then you just set sail. It was a clean air from there, and you continued to pull away. It seemed like marker after marker, time after time, nobody had anything for you. And the only time you were contested tonight was a 2-tire call from Christian Key, which you quickly rebutted with a pass on the outside.
Yeah, I'll have to thank Benji. I mean, you remember we did the track champion series, so we raced Kansas here a lot in all the different cars, and yeah, I've grown to like this track. I think I know the good little grooves. I like coming out of 4. If you do it just right, you get right up there by the wall. I've practiced many times hitting that wall, so yeah, I like Kansas. So it's kind of Good to hear Phil say he doesn't like this place. So like that gave me a little confidence. All right, I'm actually finally winning one of these again. So yeah, practice did pay off this week, and yeah, it was a good night tonight.
Again, congratulations. Dominant performance, 57 laps led, your third victory on this season. 2 races left after this with Homestead and Daytona. We're going to stay in Florida for the tail end of the VRX World Cup. But Brian Hennings coming in here to the points lead, looking really good for the overall winner in the championship. Anyone you want to shout out?
I guess tonight we'll start first with all the sponsors: Pimax, Butt Kicker, Superior Performance. Love you, Mr. Mulcahy. You guys in the booth, definitely I'm going to go watch this one. All my teammates at VRX, all the admins that have helped out with this, especially Lion for securing the prizes for all of us. Makes it fun to race for more than just some bragging rights. I got to say hi to Paul and to Turd Nugget who might be watching. What's up, guys? And, I always got to shout out my wife and daughter. Love you too.
Brian Hennings victorious at Kansas. Moving on to the next mile and a half. Progressive Banking in Miami. Until then, buddy, we'll see you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
That brings us to our next finisher on the podium, Christian Key. Connor Horn has caught up with the driver in the 97 who just turned his camera off for whatever reason. I was just about to bring him up there, and you turned it off.
Nope, too late. He doesn't get paid anymore.
Nope,
No.
that's not the right one. Try again.
Oh no!
Nope, too late.
Oh, I don't know
I'm
what
not,
happened.
I'm not interviewing him anymore. No, it's okay.
Nope, canceled.
Dang.
Hey, I'll take over on that.
I'll interview anyways. Once you're doing that, you had second place in a good spot. You went maybe for the win, maybe just solidify P2 Christian. You just came up a little short, mainly on the pit exit. Would you take anything back? Would you take the 2-tire call back, or the pit exit back, or just all of it?
Honestly, I would take the pit exit back, especially after that second pit. I honestly thought I was gonna get a black flag for that at the pit exit, and that's why I slowed down so much. But if I could have taken it back, I could have had a cleaner exit, and I probably could have won this race.
Definitely would have been close. It just came down to a little bit too slow of a pit exit, but you had a good race. This is almost certainly your best finish of the season. You're up to unofficially 7th in points. You're 5 points behind Doug Helfer for 6th, and it is about 26 points to 3rd place in points. You've had a pretty solid season, even with a lot of bad luck mixed in. What more are you looking forward to trying to work on yourself, maybe at Homestead or Daytona? What are you looking to do? You trying to win both of them, one of them? What are the expectations?
Honestly, I'm gonna try to do what I did at the beginning of the season, and that's win Daytona. Um, Even though at the beginning of the season, that first race at Daytona was a little bit of luck because the last wreck on the last lap. But honestly, I feel like I have grown a lot during this season. And yes, obviously, bad luck here and there at Bristol. Uh, I also had a couple of mishaps in Indianapolis, and I honestly think that builds character. And to be completely honest with you, I feel like I honestly have a good chance of winning Daytona. I do not feel that way about Homestead, though.
Well, it's another technically a mile and a half, so we might see you at the front like we saw tonight. This is your first top 10 finish since November, so it's been 2 months. Obviously, got the win at Daytona back in October, and this is your first top 5 since that. So congratulations on a good run, Christian, especially with that paid scheme. It looks awesome. It looked good side by side with 74 for a while, but just a little short. Anyone else you want to thank or shout out?
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And shout out you guys at V Speed for putting on such an amazing broadcast. Um, Shout out my Uncle David, the one that got me into iRacing. Shout out to sponsors, Pimax, Butt Kicker. They do amazing. And I'm hopefully eventually I can be enough in the points to get a butt kicker. That would be such an improvement on my rig that I have. But yeah, shout out to Brian Hennings for winning the race and Philip Willis for teaching me a lot of stuff during the season.
Well, he doesn't have a camera for us, but he's still P2 regardless. Christian, thanks for talking to us. 2 more races to go. Hopefully see you at the front for both of them. Thanks for talking to us. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Technical difficulties on the camera. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all good. We saw you during the race. That's what mattered.
Second place finisher, Christian Key. And finally, that brings us to our third place finisher. We've talked to him a lot as well. This will be the seventh time we've talked to Philip Willis. And man, Philip, I hate to bring it up again, but we got to go back to Bristol. That was the moment where things have just kind of sloped for you. And it's been kind of a trim in points. You've finished well. You haven't had a bad race since Bristol, but it's just, you've lost a little bit of gap there every single week. What is it going to take for these final 2 weeks and at Homestead to prevent Brian Hennings from sealing the deal?
Well, first of all, you got to let Bristol go, man. I'm already past that. That happened weeks ago. Congrats to Brian tonight. I knew I didn't have a chance to win this race, and congrats to Christian. He had a good race tonight. I'm glad to see it. I've not ran that many races here. This is the one track that I don't have a whole lot of time spent with. I did learn a lot this week. Tried to make the high line work here, but I knew I had to try to do something different than what those two guys were doing. I wanted to have a different pit strategy, and I was hoping that high line would kind of pay off on those old tires, just a few more laps to gain as much, time on them as I could, but that just didn't play out. But good finish. I'll take it. Move on next week. I think Brian's pretty much got this sewed up. He'd have to have a disaster these next two races, but hoping to have a good week. Next race at Homestead, I like that track. You already know that by experience. I'd like to have a good finish at Daytona. Why? Why not?
Why are you bringing that up? I already forgot about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you would, just like you need to forget Bristol. But
well, Philip, I know that throughout the season we have a few favorites here at VSP. We don't really call them out. We don't list them, but we knew that you would be a driver to be reckoned with. You have the talent, you have the speed, and so with the 5 wins on the season, is there anything outside of what I mentioned? Is there anything else that you would change, or maybe you could change here in these last 2 races?
Yeah, that race at Daytona hurt me when I was in third place fighting for the win there on the white flag lap and got turned by a certain driver. I won't mention his name, but I know it wasn't his intention. That was me trying to protect the position and finish 19th. But yeah, that one hurt me. If I'd have had that one, I think it'd have been a little different story. But yeah, with the disqualification at Bristol, it really hurt me. There wasn't nothing else I could do on that, and I did not want to be responsible for wrecking a bunch of drivers being on that outside high line and take out half the crew. That's not something I like to do. So unfortunately, I have an issue with the black flag. I think it should have been cleared since I'd done a stop and go instead of a pass through, because that's a worse penalty than a drive through, in my opinion. But that didn't happen. I take my licks and lick them and move on. It's all I can do. But it's been a good series. I've enjoyed it.
An excellent drive here tonight. Definitely a top 3 car. And Philip, I know there's a lot of people watching you, and you've got a lot of people backing you up, partners and friends. Go ahead and thank those people.
Well, thank you to everyone that's watching and supporting me. That's cool to know. I do have my family that watches, my mom and dad, and I have a few coworkers that like to watch. So shout out to them if they tune in to see this week. But thanks to these sponsors, I can, for what they're doing for this. This is great. Bud Kicker, Pimax, Moser Racing, Superior Performance. Fortunately, we lost Kevin McCahey this year, and he was cool enough to sponsor this series, and I hate that for him and his family. But for what I got to know of Kevin, is great. Can't thank y'all enough, VSP, for putting the show on. It's very cool to watch this show. Y'all put on a heck of a show, man. It's great to go back and watch this. I wish I could have y'all broadcast everything I do, because that'd be great, because I love to hear y'all. But can't give a shout out enough to VRX Simulators for giving me this opportunity to join this series. It's been fun. I've come to grow into another family racing with these men and ladies that's involved with this, and thank you to them for inviting me to run the series.
Philip Willis, we appreciate you coming up here. Thanks for the kind words, and thank you for being a great champion and supporter here at VRX, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Homestead and Daytona. We'll stay in Florida for these final 2 weeks.
Absolutely. See you in Miami, and hopefully be on the winner's circle again.
Won't be surprised if you do.
We'll see. Brian's learned a lot.
He has. There's
right,
Philip Willis, 3rd place finisher here tonight. And that is going to do it here for us in the top 3. there's your final recap. And I know that everything kind of got flipped on its head there at the tail end of this race. Didn't expect the drivers to pit twice. From what we had received information-wise, it looked like Stephen Brown had reported to us. Stephen, were you surprised to see these guys commit to a two-stop race that early?
I was actually pretty surprised, Bradley. From what a lot of these drivers said, they were going to try to do a one-stop race. But being with how the momentum was going, where it was just straight green flag, green stops, they were all strategizing this. They were all saying, if it was to go green, we're going to try to do two stops. And it definitely turned out to be that way. And I love how the skill on pit road, yeah, we had a couple of mishaps in terms of penalties and people spinning on pit road, but other than that, these drivers, they did a fantastic job both on and off the track when it comes to pit road.
It was clean and green all the way through for 70 laps. Connor Horn, we've seen a lot of this here this season, and it's been mighty impressive.
Not only does he have the race wins to go along with it, he's got 3 to Phil Willis's 5, so 2 less, yeah, but it's been the consistency. I mean, he has 2 more top 5s, 3 more top 10s, and that's been the difference. I mean, he has been so consistently at the front all season long. He has no finishes worse than 7th in every race he's done. So it's been pretty incredible what he has been able to do in the 10 races. No races lower than 7th. That's how you win championships. And we go into next week, he might really only have to finish in the top 5 to clinch the title before we even get to Daytona. And I know he does not want to have to deal with maybe losing a championship on the craziness and the chaos at Daytona. So I'm sure he's going to be extra motivated to finish it in Miami.
Brian Hennings has the points lead by 37 points going into Homestead. You can catch that January 22nd at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time as we wrap up the final 2 races. Race number 11, Homestead, Miami, here on V-Speed. We have coverage all season long. But for everybody here at V-Speed, Adam Baker, my co-commentator, Connor Horn, our pit reporter, Stephen Brown, this has been another production from VRX Simulators and all the sponsors combined with Moza Racing, Climax, Butt Kicker, and Superior Performance. This is Bradley Cooper saying so long from Kansas. We'll see you in 1 week's time. Stay tracking, everybody.